Welcome to Talk Cosmos, the show where Sue Minahan and her panel of guests bring you insightful conversations to awaken consciousness for soul growth. Come journey with us through astrology's energetic cycles and get ready to understand your path in the cosmic roots of the stars.
Hello, today is September 8th. We are in the approaching autumn as the equinox isn't too far away. And our subject today is valuing the actions of others. Because with an eclipse, such as we're going to be talking about in Pisces, as my guest and I pre-chatted, she came up with an insightful comment that I'll repeat. And that is honoring our rhythm and needs rather than being unbalanced. It's how we get back into balance between that which we can't control and that which we can fix to continue that legacy of life and death, really. I'm paraphrasing and adding to this whole complexity. Really, when you come down to Pisces and Virgo, all of the axes definitely have their complexities. But when you consider the forces greater than ourselves, which Pisces involves, and our ability to discern how we're going to correct that to improve our odds, you could say, to have thriving in life, it's very deep. This is now ready. Boy, I'm recovering from COVID. That's a disclaimer right now, but I'm doing pretty fine, except a little bit muddled sometimes. Okay, and that's why I have panelists, and we are ready for Planet Buzz.
Focusing on perspectives of pattern planet cycle relationships and understanding their archetypal energy consciousness, reflecting through history, current events, mythology, and philosophical questions, these are the members of Planet Buzz.
I'm Sue Minahan, founder of Talk Cosmos since 2018. I'm an evolutionary astrologer, consultant, speaker, writer, vibrational astrology student, Dwarf Planet University graduate, Kepler Astrology Toastmasters Club charter member. I have a fine arts music degree plus a certificate in jazz. I'm an artist, musician, and certified color energy life coach. Especially, I love mythology and esoteric philosophies.
And I'm Dr. Now.Chat. I work as a spiritually oriented psychological astrologer with students and clients around the world. As a counselor, writer, and educator, I love helping people recognize their inner strengths, take advantage of auspicious moments, and navigate times of challenge with greater ease. On my own podcast, Mythic Sky Storytime, I discuss astrology, mythology, and actualizing our full potential. Learn more at mythicsky.com.
Plus, a special guest who we will introduce in just a short moment.
And as the ancient Hermetic Code reveals,
as below, so above. As above, so below.
Hi, Laura. Dr. Tat. Greetings from Ireland. I know that you had a journey.
And I'm back now. I got back Friday, but
yes, indeed. So, and the fall is upon us. Well, we are ready for Pisces Lunar Eclipse, valuing individual actions. Let's meet our guest, Dr. Susie Holbrook. Hi, Susie.
Hi, guys.
Yeah, it's so wonderful to be with you again.
Yeah. From our days journeying with evolutionary astrology and learning all about the soul and the passage of, through our life in order to meet our karmic needs. So this is cool to get back with you.
It is. Do you know, it was 8 years since we started that in 2015 with maybe 8 years, all of a sudden in my mind. But the point is with Maurice Fernandez. And Susie is a graduate. She is one of the few. It was a very large class of near 18, 20 people. And you graduated. So it's wonderful. And you're let's see what your bio, and then we'll go on. Susie is a MD doctor, a pediatrician, has her own practice, and an evolutionary astrologer. And therefore, she serves as a bridge between pediatric medicine and astrology. She's an astrology consultant, a YouTube astrology channel, which has many wonderful videos that you can just find, and a lecturer. She's lectured with NORWAC. She incorporates ancient wisdom and modern science to help patients explore those effective options in a holistic, client-centered manner. And as we had mentioned, she completed both Jeffrey Wolf Green's Pluto School, which is EA, often referred to, and Maurice Fernandez, the complete course. I think we were number 10, and Maurice is up to 15, 16. I'm not sure. He's rolling. Okay, well, very good. And Dr. Laura Tad of mythicsky.com, spiritually oriented psychological astrologer, which of course we introduced, and myself with Talk Cosmos, EA. And well, somebody's squeaking a little bit. I don't know what that is, but that's okay. It might be some motion going on. We're going to discuss a Pisces lunar eclipse is at 25 degrees, which is in the last decan of Pisces. And these are the time zones. On the East Coast, it's 10 o'clock in the evening. That's 10:34 and 14 minutes to be exact. In London, which is British Standard Time right now, it's the next day, early in the morning, 2 a.m. It's 2:34, 15 a.m. And then you can find the appropriate time. On Talk Cosmos, there's a little down at the bottom. You can adjust the time too. It happens, just giving you an overview of how to think of this. There's so many angles that we could approach. But the lunar eclipses, just like the solar eclipses, are part of a Saros series. It's Saros, named from a person. It's a long cycle, almost 1,300 years, this particular one. And it's series 118. That's lunar series 118, opposed to the solar. And the first eclipse happened in 1105. We'll look at that later. This is the last partial eclipse, and it's 52 of 73, so it's about 2/3 through. The visibility, it's quite visible. It will be all in both Americas, much of Asia, Middle East. It's in Europe and Africa. And the oceans, it's going to be and it's in Pisces. I thought, of course, it's the Pacific, the Atlantic, Western Indian Ocean, the Eastern Polynesia, and the poles. I was amazed about that. It's going to be in the Arctic and parts of the Antarctic. And I think it was Earth Sky, one of these. It said, look out for Saturn, because you will be able to notice Saturn, which is so interesting because Saturn is a cycle of endings and beginnings, a less visible planet. And the moon is always our process of timing. So we're not always ready for that ending, but eclipses is what that's about. Lights out, folks. Here, little bit of not history, but astronomy. The moon travels in Earth's shadow. I find that so symbolic because there's a body, a shadow has a body, and it's a very incarnated thing. And I think that's part of the drama of an eclipse. It's not total. It's going to be partial. And this Earth, therefore, blocks the sun's light. It needs to be at almost 12 degrees within the nodes. It's 11:39, and this one's at 10:55. I have to do my math many times because you have to remember a sign has 30 degrees. But it is a time of releasing. See what works and what isn't. Shift your focus. For those people that want to know a little bit more, it is about the two paths of the sun's orbital path, the ecliptic, Earth's path with the moon's path. And when the moon's path and the sun's path as you know, they're opposite right now in a full moon, but they still intersect. That means meeting. Nodes is meeting, a knot, intersection. So it happens to be at the south node, though, which really, again, as I had indicated, is a moment of releasing, because it opens up what we can have available. I always have to add this. It's complex, but we are not static. As the Earth is spinning, orbiting, the sun is orbiting, and our galaxy is orbiting. So check this out and see that we're part of a big picture. All right, Laura and Susie, let's talk about Pisces just a smidgen, because that is our the moon this time. It's about
to me, Pisces it's that place of perfection. It's that place where there's no need for any evolution, really, in the best of all possible situations. But unfortunately, that's really difficult to be in that place of perfect balance and perfection all the time, where there's no need for effort at all. So therefore we get into these things like chaos and delusion, not understanding. Things are fuzzy and unclear, and so we're trying to get to that place of perfect balance, but not, at least I don't find myself there that often.
I think good. Yeah, I think Laura and I would tend to agree. I know we all have prominent either Neptune or Pisces somewhere, and so we understand this archetype, and I appreciate that, a perfection. I never think of that, but yet, yes, the greater cosmos, the forces at large, it's working naturally. They don't really need our interruption. But you're right; it's dealing with it. Yes, it's how do we fit into that perfection?
Well, I think too that it's trusting in the flow of things, right? Because it's the polarity to the Virgo that wants things to be organized and neat and tidy, and everything has its place and is systematic. And Pisces, Neptune, it dissolves everything. There is no linearity, right? And so there's a need to trust in the process, whatever direction that might take us, because it may not be the systematic, really simple, clean, what can feel stabilizing energy that Virgo can bring in, of being able to count on A, B, C, right? It might be AQ, then back to D, then to W, right? That Piscean,
non-linear, yes.
Or even like, and then it's 75, right? Like it doesn't even necessarily, it can be all over the place. Mm-hmm. And trusting that there's perfection in that, right? And that's really hard as humans to trust in the what we can't see, right? But that's a lot of what Pisces asks of us.
I love this, both of you. Thank you so much. We're going to jump in and give another large picture, and that's the Sabian symbols. They were channeled in 1925 by a spiritualist medium, Elsie Wheeler, and she, along with the astrologer, Mark, M-A-R-C, not to be confused with the current Mark Jones, but this was Mark Edmund Jones, and they came up with a spiritual imagery metaphor for every one of the 360 zodiacal degrees. And it rounds it off to the next one. So 25 is going to look at 26 Pisces. And it is watching the very thin moon crescent, or the crescent moon as we call it, that appears at sunset. But different people realize that the time has come to just go ahead with their different projects. And so the whole gist is realize that any impulse, and this is what there's going to be individual responses to that challenge. And therefore, the message is that it's a fallacy, totalitarian. I don't think I'm saying that word right. But to realize that if we're going to actualize human potential, let humans emerge individually. It's quite a message, I think. Any thoughts?
Especially from, this Pisces place, emerge as the individual. It's trying to bring the antidote to the chaos and dissolving that Pisces does, trying to have that emergence of the ability to impact your life and be, competent in that place of disillusion. So it's beautiful.
Confident in that point of disillusionment. That goes along with the trust. Yes, it's the name of the game. I had to have a quote as we lead on, and there's many, but Brian Tracy, was born, or not with the C, he's born in America, but he lived in Canada, a motivational public speaker and development, author of 80 books. I thought about that. Oy, that's really incredible. All successful people are big dreamers, imagining their future could be ideal in every respect, and then they work every day toward their distant vision. So I think that sums up one idea that this Sabian symbol might be reminding us about. And if we look next, I brought this up because if we're looking at the Sorrows series, just to give an overview, some of the history involved, how this one might be applied, remembering that there's many people acting in many ways right now. So in 1105 in Europe, how do you look at the overview? And your ideas are always contributing to this, but it was an upheaval. But why? Because I think really there's an identity of values. The Crusades had started just 9 years or 7 in 1096 or 95, 10 years before. And it went on for hundreds of years. It went on for 3, 4, 5, long time. And this was, if you can maybe shake it down to identity of values, no matter the fact they had these bloody wars. Then in 1790, looking at the 73 to choose from, or the 52 past, I looked at 1790 because knowing that the United States, and it was a totality, it happened to be within the totality ones, whereas we're a last partial. And in 1790, it was after the Civil War. However, we were working on our Constitution and the Bill of Rights and establishing a new government. And it was massive, all the changes that happened. The first census, a post office, national mint were established. The Supreme Court convened for the first time. The Naturalization Act, the Copyright Law Act, the patent systems forms, and Washington, D.C. was declared the permanent USA capital. It had gone from Philly to New York, and that's where the Supreme Court was at that time. And then it was, no, we're going to go to Washington, D.C., and they plotted the land and built the thing. And along with that, interestingly, a lifeboat was first tested by Mr. Greathead. You can't invent these things. Mr. Greathead. I can't think about that. And also the Quakers petitioned Congress to abolish slavery. That was like a seed in there to say, you know what, this isn't right. So then I flashed up to 1862, because again, that's a civil war. But what were we doing? We were fighting for unity, which right now in Pisces is the name of the game. Pardon my little slang there, but I love that idea. And equality, again, that there is some, you're okay, I'm okay. We're in this together. And that was the fight for it. Mexico happened to discover the Aztec calendar stone. Should we go to the recent ones, or do you want to make?
So, I mean, just in looking in general at this and sort of in relation to the quote that you shared, it reminds me of a quote I heard from Howard Zinn 25 years ago now, almost, or 23, like right after 9/11, I heard Howard Zinn speak, who wrote, People's History of the United States. And in his lecture, he talked about the quote that I often use of his: if you don't set unreachable goals, you'll never reach them. And he was talking about in the context of world peace, of utopia. It's like, well, maybe we can't accomplish that. Maybe humans are just too flawed. We have too much carbon. We've got too much to do. But we're sure not going to accomplish it if we don't put that out there as a possibility. And so in looking at all of these things that you've outlined, whether we agree with the ethics behind it or not, these were all very lofty goals. These were all very lofty dreams, right? The Crusades was a lofty goal, even if it was seriously violent and seriously problematic for the people that were, it was a crusade. We call it that for a reason. And the French Revolution was this lofty goal. The founding of the US was these lofty goals. And so that being part of that dreaming things into possibility, which can be part of that Neptunian Piscean energy of things. And then that polarity to Virgo, right, is how do we concretize that dream? And that's the gift, right, of that polarity, is Virgo concretizing the seemingly impossible.
Thank you so much. The recent years, for many of us, it can go back, but it's 1988, 2006, prior to this one this year. And then the following one will be in 2042. 1988, there wasn't a lot to draw from, but the Soviet, because of the Middle East, Soviet Red Army, at that time it was the Soviets, withdrew from Afghanistan. That seemed like a peaceful thing to do. I don't know if that was their intention, but I thought that was supportive. And Stephen Hawking published A Brief History of Time, which is, again, breaking barriers. And it reminded me a bit of the Aztec calendar, which is, again, this large span, as close to infinity that we can comprehend, perhaps. Hawkins and Einstein, these great theoretical, I don't know if Stephen Hawking was a theoretical physicist like Einstein or not, but anyway, the great physicist. And then in 2006, the series Pluto, for us astrologers, was reclassified because there was, it was compared to Ceres, the planet Ceres, but also many during 2003 to 2005. So many of these dwarf planets were discovered: Maki, Haumea, Eris. There were a number of them. The Western Union sent its last telegram. I don't quite know how to focus on that, but really think of how much we depended on it. And now, of course, we have internet and Facebook, which, again, has revolutionized part of our internet system, open to the public. It had been around. And when they opened it up, they opened it to 13 years and older. And, of course, the young set got started. And then the older folks have now taken it over, and the young have moved on.
Well, and it's interesting. So, what was happening with Facebook prior to that is it was limited to people who were enrolled in academic institutions, right? So you could only be, prior to it opening to the public, quote unquote, you had to have a EDU email, right? Which was like an email address that you get that if you're matriculated into a university. And so there is this dissolving of boundaries potentially that you could look at with that in terms of a through line to this Neptunian Piscean energy. And that what was this very closed system, right, suddenly became not. And I think, the 13 and older was just to be managing content because of age appropriateness, as I'm guessing why they
had to stop at something.
And the other thing that this brings to my mind is this concept of the masses, of the public, which is another way to think of the Neptune Pisces kind of archetypic expression, that there's the individual in their home with their PC shooting it out to the public. And so that's interesting.
It is, both of you, yes, about the boundaries, establishing what there are and then dissolving that. We're just shy of really the cutoff, but we have a lot of astrology ahead of us. And so I'll remind folks that we're listening about the Pisces Lunar Eclipse. That's going to happen. Today is the 8th. It's in 1 week. It's not 10 days. It's a little bit away, but we're in that season. So the energies are occurring. So as we approach into the astrology of it with all this back set of some of the meaningfulness of how it's another way of interpreting it, it's a powerful time. It's always powerful.
Yeah, well, and it's interesting to think about sort of the less sunny part of this, in terms of like looking at Facebook and what got dissolved, and part of that was privacy, right? And so the boundaries and ethics, right, which could be part of that Virgo polarity, right? So that's part of this dynamic too, is when things get dissolved, there's certain things that are healthy to have. I mean, you're a pediatrician. Babies like to be swaddled for a reason. There's a safety in that, right? And so there's ideally, right, those polarities, you want to bring them into balance rather than ping pong from one extreme to the other. And so how do we have that collectiveness of Pisces with perhaps some containment that Virgo likes to bring in, so that there is some constraints on it, right? That there isn't just the extremes that could potentially bring in.
Yeah, always trying to come to the middle with these opposition configurations. So yes, absolutely.
We will return in a jiffy. So get your water, come back, or kombucha, whatever it is, and return with us as we work with Dr. Tad and Dr. Holbrook, valuing individual actions. We're going to get up and go. See ya.
While we take a break from this week's edition of Talk Cosmos, let's take a look at this cycle's archetype. We are currently in the yin period of Virgo. By leaving a cycle based on the creative manifested legacy of our highest creative form, the energy of Virgo completes the last sign below the horizon of the self and requires discernment to perfect oneself through the mental process of critical analysis. As a mutable earth sign duly ruled by Mercury, Virgo refines, heals, or fixes through daily routines, developing skills and services to control nature's chaos and maximize efficiency.
This is Martha Norwalk. Every Sunday morning, beginning at 9 a.m., thanks in part to the Ananda Institute of Living Yoga, we cover the world of animals. This week, September 15th, it's Behavior Training and Healing Sunday with me, and talk with your animals or human loved ones on this side or the other, personal awareness coaching, and astrology with Natasha Venter. Hope you can join us and plan to call in with your questions for either one of us or a personal reading with Natasha. Martha Norwalk's Animal World, Sunday morning, 9 a.m. to noon, right here on Alternative Talk, AM 1150.
Talk Cosmos brings insightful conversations to awaken consciousness for the soul growth with hour-long programs every Sunday at 1 p.m. Pacific on KKNW. Talk Cosmos weekly programs are also available to watch live on the Talk Cosmos YouTube channel and Facebook page. While you're there, make sure you click the like and subscribe buttons so you get the full Talk Cosmos experience. Or if you'd rather listen to the show archives with audio only, the entire podcast collection since 2018 is available on most podcast carriers. And to find out about upcoming programs, sign up for the newsletter at talkcosmos.com. So grab your coffee, tea, or kombucha and enjoy the show.
On the path to good health and well-being, Alternative Talk 1150 is the station for you.
Hi again, rolling along. At the half break or half time, I always bring up, what are our panelists doing? How can you see about them? Dr. Susie Holbrook can be found at her website, Susie, that's zyholbrook.com. And Dr. Laura Tad has one at Mythic Sky. And you can go to Talk Cosmos for me. Dr. Holbrook has evolution. Susie, go ahead. Explain about how to reach you and what you're doing.
I'm also a functional medicine practitioner and see so many different physical conditions manifesting in the chart. And it's the basis of functional medicine sees the underlying basic upstream causes and then go that much further with evolutionary astrology to see the upstream soul causes. And they work well together. So that is my focus at this point.
Beautiful. And so you're on Instagram, Facebook, and your channel, and people can find you for good. And Laura, Dr. Tad, I know you were away, but I created this for you because you have your Goddess Awakening Retreat in 2025. It's never too early to start telling people. Yeah. And they can actually sign up now if they just go to your Mythic Sky.
Open. This will be the third year I've done this with Michelle. Michelle's been doing it down there for a decade. She's an amazing body worker and a teacher. And so I'll be doing some astrology and some working with personal myth and various different meditation techniques. And she's got lots of different retreats too. She's November through May. She's running retreats down there. But so this one will have some astrology and myth, and it's this particular one, the Goddess Awakening, is for women only, but it's looking at the divine feminine and how to connect with that in the context of from various different perspectives. And it's absolutely gorgeous in Nika, right on the Pacific Ocean. You get to see, so you can see in the photo, there's a turtle hatchery, so they release baby turtles into the sea at least once a week.
Once a week. I that's absolutely fabulous. And I am now with a guest myself on Elizabeth Liz Mouchette's channel, YouTube channel. And we're beginning a new series. We're both graduates of Alan Clay's Dwarf Astrology University, and it's a new dwarf planet series, although we've been going since February on all kinds of different subjects. And I have a playlist, so just go to my Talk Cosmos YouTube channel and you can watch it. We talked about Ceres and the moon, which is very appropriate. Alan feels that Ceres is the higher octave of the moon. They're both nurturing planets, and it's quite interesting. Ceres is really a remarkable, I could go on and on about Ceres because, she traveled unknown here on Earth, and she's the one dwarf planet that's in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. So she's been disguised as a asteroid because she disguised herself here too. But next is, if you want to know more about the moon, there's quite a bit on Talk Cosmos. Kaleidoscope Visions now has shifted their gears, no longer giving transit readings. We are now looking at the 4 lunar phase cycles. So it covers the new moon, the first quarter, this eclipse, and the third quarter. And archetypal symbols looks at the new moon through many through Vedic, numerology, tarot, Sabian symbols, mythology, and of course the charts. Next week is going to be our quarterly Astro Jam, and it's going to be the theme on the fall equinox. We have 2 teams. They don't have any idea what the charts are. It's like astro drama, a lot of fun. So you have to check that out. And last but not least, we also have quarterly fall vibrations, fall equinox vibrations. I've changed the name to the turning season instead of good vibrations, which was anyway. And it's through vibrational astrology. Linda Berry has worked with David Cochran and is a teacher of her own. I'm a student with her. And it's a fascinating approach that gives the idea of the entire next season some really critical concepts. Also, there is a new panel I've begun, U.S. Global Currents, and our series is about the election, U.S. 24 election series. We did the Democrat and Republican conventions, and next will be the swing states. So stay tuned, folks. Things are happening. Zero in. And thank you so much for signing up. Let's get to our subject. This is a key you can look at, giving all the little glyphs for those people that are wondering what they mean. Just a little bit of backdrop. We have 2 out-of-bound planets. That's when it's beyond the ecliptic path of the sun at 23.26 degrees. It's a declination, latitude or north or south of the equator. The planets, they don't care what the sun says. They act on their own. It's a very pure, instinctive. And we have Mars that's out of bounds, and we have Ceres, which happens to do about grief or nurturing. So when you can find out about that. Do you have comments? And it's a long time that Ceres is out of bounds. She's been since April 2nd till January 15th. So we're really in this time of focus that has to do about food, agriculture, which has to do about our health, or either we have food or we don't have food. That's also the story of Ceres. And about womanhood. Here we have Kamala Harris running in the nomination for presidency.
This Mars, I think, is sorry, Sue, did you want to say something else?
Oh, I was just going to add that Mars is all about action and our drive, but go ahead.
No, I think that's, a beautiful point to bring up, because this chart of this lunar eclipse, that Mars to me is pivotal. It's squaring the nodal axis, and it's the ruler of the north node, and that moon, which is, that's the lunar eclipse point, that is the important piece here, of course, in opposition to that sun. But that moon being so important and I'm bringing the moon in because the Mars is in Cancer. So I'm just flipping back and forth between those 2 energies, because it is about nourishment and nurturing, and, what opens, softens, and enriches our life. And in that, the Pisces, that we might find it difficult to access that for our personal use, elusive.
I'm suddenly remembering Mars in Cancer, all about safety. And the fact is that we're approaching a time ahead in December where it goes retrograde. And so we have Mars in Cancer until April 19th. Now, it will go into Leo for a while, but all during this time, normally it goes in and out in 2 months. But Mars wants to go ahead. It wants to cut things, which is very hard for the moon that wants to process. It's not ready yet. And it's that holding the brake, saying, wait a minute, is it safe yet? Is winter going to freeze me out? Is my flower going to die and not be able to bloom? It's very complex. quite involved. Thank you for bringing that up.
Of course. I mean, the other bit is that, to me, thinking from my medical perspective, is we have to be careful during this time for Mars in Cancer related concerns, which would be our stomach, esophagitis, peptic ulcer disease. So be careful about your nervous system and your adrenal glands. How stressed out are you? Are you doing your meditation or your relaxation techniques in order to calm and be, a little healthier with our adrenals?
I was just focusing lately, since having COVID, about breathing. So thankfully, checking myself, I can breathe. And of course, we don't live in that huge of an area, but being in Hawaii, I can live on the lanai, which I did. And the weather's pretty nice for that. It's in the shade. And I realized, really, there's so many things that a Gemini can realize, but then when you really have to stop and dwell on it, you understand. And that is breathing. Yes, we breathe all the time and people know about it. And having sung, I realize it's deep breathing. But the fact is that to calm down, you take that deep breath in. So yes, folks, breathe.
And it's a learned skill. I mean,
It is.
breathe, but that relaxation technique, it's a learned skill. So exactly, take that time to work on it.
Because in terms of breathe, like when we're stressed, we tend to not really, when we get hurt, people that often the first thing people do if they like stub their toe even, right? Like they suck their breath in, and hold their breath, right? And it's breathe through it. I
think, yes.
So that can be part of, that idea of self-care, right? That can be part of this Mars and needing to just be more conscious about it, because with it out of bounds, it's not as instinctual as Mars often is, right? It's like it's having to make a conscious choice to bring in self-care, self-nurturing, and that, bring back to breath. It's like you put your mask on first on an airplane, right? You can't be there for other people if you don't take care of yourself. And that's part of, I think, that Mars squared to the nodes too, right? Is that action of how are we taking action or not, right? And where are we being passive? Because Mars in Cancer could be very passive or directionless or misguided, right? And going sideways, because that's what Cancer does, right? It's not straight ahead.
Thank you. Yeah.
And so that can be part of that, all tied into this eclipse, right? Because eclipses both reveal and eclipse things, right?
Good point, Laura.
And part of that.
I'm in such support. I apologize for thinking that this idea that you're bringing forth that I wanted to bring up about holding the breath. And you're so right that it does reveal to us that awareness, because I know that for folks that have PTSD, I've been contemplating that really and with Mars in Cancer, this could be when one is in when one is hurt, like just this toe thing, in pain. Think in very ancient times, by holding one's breath, one didn't make any sound and the predator wouldn't find you. And I think this goes back to our reptilian type instinct. And so if we can remember to go beyond that, because people in war hold breaths, I think I've noticed that I happen to be married to somebody, so I have some personal experience here. And so I'm relating to that. But it's really a focus that any of us that have shocks or pain, or if we're worried about safety, we hold our breath thinking that maybe it's pause to stop and reflect. Maybe it's pause to not be noticed and give us time, whatever it is. But that shallow breathing needs to be aborted and breathe deep. The gun isn't being pointed here in civilian life. Okay, we have hard aspects and soft. Hard is going to be relate specifically to action and drive. Soft is flowing and connection. Thank you for allowing that. I both of you. If we look at the moon itself, you know what? I didn't put down squaring it's squaring the nodes. That's
Mars is
right. But not the moon. Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, well, I think, right, just quickly, right, without even we get this double signature of this Piscean energy, right? This eclipse being so close to Neptune. And so it's already Piscean, and then it's with Neptune. And so there's this, and then it's an eclipse, which all of that, like an eclipse has a Piscean quality to it in and of itself in terms of the dissolving of things. And then it's eclipse in Pisces, and then it's with Neptune in Pisces. And so there's a lot of, I mean, I found when I was in Ireland, I was having crazy dreams, and it's also Ireland that tends to happen in Ireland in general. But that people may be finding that they're having really intense dreams right now, even in the lead into the eclipse, because there's this unconscious, right? Pisces governing the unconscious, the collective unconscious, things that are bleeding through that are not, again, like not the linear, logical Virgonian polarity. And so what is coming through from on other channels, right? And sometimes that comes through dreams. That might, if people have active meditation practices, they may be getting information in other ways, both during the eclipse and in the lead into it. And as with all eclipses, right, it's always helpful to look back 6 months. Right, what was going on when we had the new moon in Pisces, right? And because that's often what set the stepping stones for what might get revealed now.
Thank you. This astrology chart is with Pisces, with moon on the ascendant. Yeah, I love that, Laura. If I don't comment, I'm just going to keep rolling. But the dreams, that's very important.
I mean, one thing too about the dream part is that I just think that, especially with the chart laid out this way, that we're birthing that moon and Neptune conjunction is about the importance of realizing that your emotional needs won't be taken care of unless you know what you need and ask for them. That we need to be active participants in this, or else we'll float and we won't attach, and then it'll all pass us right by, and we'll forget where we are or what we need, or all that. So just the intention to nourish yourself and ask for nourishment, ask for what you need to be an active participant in this process, I think is really important.
Make a list, the Virgonian list. Oh, that's scary to think I would miss the call. Thank you.
Yeah, so maybe even just a dream journal, right? If we look at Jupiter as the old ruler of Pisces, right? And then it's in Gemini, so it's sort of begging us to have a dream journal right about now. And what are some of the messages that maybe are coming through? Again, metaphorically is very Piscean, right? Things aren't very literal with Pisces. It's all in the form of symbology. And so playing with those, or the psychiatrist Stephen Eisenstadt, who I think was part of founding Pacifica Graduate School, where it has this whole idea of dream tending. And so pulling out archetypal imagery that shows up in a dream and making it part of your altar, or doing specific journaling or exercises with some of the imagery that might be coming up in dreams, and seeing in writing or through different exercises, like, what does it have to tell you that's beyond just what happens in the dream time? Maybe there's some messages there for you in the midst of all of this intensity that's going on, about how to self-care in the midst of the pretty intense time that the planet we're finding ourselves in.
Well, thank you. That is very important. Look at Jupiter. It's in Gemini. So of course that's very appropriate usage with its tension that it is with the sun and moon itself, along with Mercury, its ruler. And then we have Mars, as we noticed, it's really, as we discussed. And Pluto is looking at how we can change those. It has two actions, with Venus of our values, of what's giving us life force and our relationships, and what's giving us health through that with Hygeia. So it's so, yep. There are these yods, a finger of God. It's with two planets are sextile, and then they're quincunx, 150 degrees to the apex planet. But let's just look at the apex, because we have quite a few more to go through here. Venus and Mercury, they're only 30 degrees apart, just about. And so they're really trying to work together, which is a tall order. And that's our values and our thoughts about it. And really, this is behind the scenes. We have this ongoing connection between Uranus and Neptune with that moon of our emotional depth, which personalizes it. And then we have another outer, but Pluto has its own with Neptune. Mm-hmm. And then because Pluto and Uranus have this trine of saying, yeah, we're taking those sudden things that are happening and we're going to use it like lemonade. Just make lemonade out of the lemons. It's quite a task we're heading into.
Yeah, well, I find it really interesting that in both cases, the focal points of the yods, each planet is in its own sign, I think is not something to overlook. Which really amplifies this idea of this finger of God and the importance of this point right now, right? So Mercury in Virgo, which is its own, it rules, and Venus in Libra, right? And that they're the two planets that still govern two signs. And they're in the signs that are actually not necessarily as readily thought of. Like Virgo is sometimes the afterthought of Mercury, because we think of Mercury more as Gemini often. Mm-hmm. Right, because of its quickness, and that can get more mercurially. It's thought of as Mercury, and Venus being that Venusian goddess is more Taurian in archetypal imagery. But they're still in their ruling signs, and that you have to integrate. Right, I remember. I think it was a lecture that Maurice gave at Norwalk on yods. That he talked about the only way to access that focal point is integrating the sextiles, right? So in both cases, it's Neptune which then brings us back to this eclipse, right? So really engaging this Neptunian energy, then with their associated sextile planets is the only way that we're able to really connect with this Venusian and mercurial energy in terms of
brilliant.
That finger of God, which is like things just manifest. It's not, we don't have to try, it just happens. But you have to integrate those energies. So Pluto and Neptune in Aquarius, and then stuff can just open.
Beautiful. We have 3 minutes. That's if I'm pushing. Yeah, that was priceless. There are flowing trines that are in support of it, and that's a good thing. And we have a kite again with that moon and Neptune, which is really paramount. So that's going to be the go-to place. Let's not talk about this. People can look at this, but it is a flowing energies, and it's all happening. We have 2 minutes left, and I'm so sorry. We could go on forever. You two are a great pair. I love this. But this is an inner chart. We have 2 charts. We may not get to the second one. The inner chart's U.S. Sibley, and the outer is is the eclipse. As we can see, again, with the U.S. are Neptune and the Sun, and the Neptunes are both being emphasized. So look and think about that. And also Mars with Jupiter, and Mars is very accentuated. Jupiter is right on our Mars, so we are going ahead with our philosophies, and Mars is activating Jupiter. We are in a Chiron return check, and that was all year. We have 3 returns this year, and the next one's going to be in November 8th, I think, just after the election. And I'm going to show you one more and then comments, and that is if you take 1790 Saros of that was pertinent when we were forming as a nation, that again, it's Mars and Jupiter and Venus and Neptune. So go confidently in the direction of your dreams and live your life you've imagined. I thank you. Okay, we can talk through the music. Oh, what a balance.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Oh, what a balance. And your contributions, you two feed off each other so beautifully. I am thrilled. I know you hadn't met, and I hope we begin a new legacy a few times together. So it's really great about dreams and the altar and balancing what is perfection with the world. And what else? Reaching unattainable goals. Okay, we're on. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you for joining an insightful conversation on Talk Cosmos, the show where Sue Rose Minahan and her panel of guests awaken consciousness by connecting soul growth patterns with astrology's energetic cycles. Be sure to tune in next Sunday, 1 p.m. Pacific Time, to continue your journey through the roots of the cosmic pathway.